Hello Internet, and welcome back to Tech-Xample, and welcome back to the RTX 3060, which recently got put back to market as a new product one can buy. As such, I thought it'd be a good time to revisit the mid-range Ampere card and see how far we can tune the 3060. We'll be looking at undervolting, overvolting, memory tweaking, and more. Let's jump in and really see what this new old card can do when unleashed. With almost all of the cards I've tested, the undervolt versus overvolt dilemma was easy. Decent cards are famous for being overvolted to high heaven, so an undervolt was nearly a requirement for some of the cards. However, on Ampere, we're in a whole nother ballgame. While an undervolt can help temps, it also reduces power consumed, which turns out to be the biggest limiter on the overclock. But, speaking of overclocks, more voltage can be needed to keep core clocks higher. Raising the previously mentioned power limit to plus 10%, the maximum allowed, certainly gives some breathing room, but to max out the total clock potential of this card, I gave it a nice plus 92 mV overvolt. Ending lower than plus 90 would give errors when running stress tests, but 92 just squeaks over the stable line, so we're sticking with that. We managed to increase clocks by 200 MHz to a max of 2082, an increase of 10.6%, which is especially nice when considering the EVGA model's bump of 6% over the reference model already. A personal aside here, the way this card represents clock speeds is absolutely hilarious after working on things like Fury cards. Seeing such a huge number made me think the software was misreporting things at first. Anyways, with the GDDR6, we managed to get to reach an extra 1000 MHz over stock, an increase of 6.7%. Very unfortunately, NVIDIA has seen fit to lock down any access to memory timings, and no aftermarket tools or mods that I could find will allow one to tinker with it. I find it in poor taste when companies lock their products down to such a degree, especially without ever unlocking the capabilities the product could have at some point. While there's a point to make about someone inexperienced messing things up, that's absolutely not a reason to rip away our options to improve or fix your product. You already have overclocking and whatnot behind boilerplate to protect yourselves. Keep more of these tweaks there. Not everyone will appreciate it or care, but it costs nothing long term. Mods, tinkering, and tweaks are a part of the spirit of creativity, gaming, and computers in general. I despise the way things have been moving, locking things away from the user, all with little reason or fanfare. It's going to be the death of personal computing as we know it if it continues, mark my words. We start off with the Passmark suite with 2D, 3D, and compute capabilities being tested. In the 2D test, which aim to measure image manipulation, vector graphing, and other image tasks, the newly overclocked 3060 scores 1,122 points, beating out the semi-stock results by 8.9%, a healthy amount. In the 3D benchmarks, which measure all major revisions of DirectX 9 through 12, we see the RTX card score 19,119, beating out the original test results by 7.3%. Once again, a nice bump over stock. Compute has a bit smaller of an increase, rising only 2.7% inside testing variants. Next up, for Mark II, at all 3 major resolutions, testing cooling and power delivery. At all 3 resolutions, we see the 3060 post some sizable gains, with increases to the scores of 8.4, 9.9, and 11.2% respectively. This scaling is something we see with the Ampere architecture, which tends to scale particularly well at higher resolutions. Now it's time for the 3D Mark Duo, Firestark Extreme for DirectX 11 games, and TimeSpy for DX12 games. In Firestrike, the RTX 3060 gets to 11,456, an increase of 10.4% over stock. TimeSpy shows similar results, with scores rising by around 10% to 9,561. Finally, we end things off with Superposition in both 1080p high and 4K optimized variations, both aiming to stress the card in the same ways a game would, and pushing as many lighting effects as possible, making this an excellent stress test and modern benchmarking tool. At 1080p, improvements give the overclocked 3060 the edge, with growth of 10.7%, a very healthy increase. At 4K optimized, we once again see the overclock give a nice boost in performance, with the newly overclocked RTX reaching 7534, beating out the stock results by 10.9%. We start off our gaming test with the custom Dolphin benchmark, where we run a Wii game at 4K with 8x SSAA, all to really push the thing as far as possible. The overclocked 3060 starts off strong, with averages above every other card tested, with lows thoroughly outpacing everything else as well. I dare say this is approaching playable territory, with some small tweaks. Next up, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, where, at 1080p high, we reach a CPU ceiling of 80 frames on average, matching the Radeon 7 but with much nicer lows. 1440p gives us even better results, with the averages cresting 60, putting this firmly into enjoyable territory. Even at 4K, which has crushed nearly every other card that isn't a modern flagship, the newly overclocked 3060 again pushes well into playable, with averages above 30 and lows staying close behind. A very nice experience indeed. Soul Manager 2 is our next stop, with 1080p high being up first. The RTX card is, again, bouncing off the CPU ceiling here, with averages nearly tied with everything else. 1440p is the first real disappointment so far, with the overclock causing performance to drop slightly behind stock, leaving the 3060 behind the Radeon 7. It's still very playable, to be sure, but it's not an amazing result. 4K has 3060 again behind its stock result by only a few frames, leaving real-world performance basically the same. Finally, we have Overwatch 2. At 1080p Ultra, we have a small drop in the averages, but those lows, whoo boy! This is the exact same test I run on every card, and this is the worst low performance I've ever seen. Both CPU and GPU stay pegged at 100% the whole time as well, causing me to scratch my head a bit. I can't stop Overwatch from updating, being an online only game as all, so it's possible that an update broke something on this card, but even the stock retest I did give similar low performance. This is a baffling result, and I can't say I'd put much stock behind it, but I felt appropriate to share with you all anyways. This section will be brief. The 3060 sees some small but welcome gains in nearly every test, but most gains aren't large enough to make a huge difference overall. Unfortunately, since I don't have enough cards tested here, I can't draw too many conclusions, other than this getting the 3060 closer to the 6900 XT's performance at a significantly lower power level. No mean feat. Well, I'd certainly say that was worth it. In synthetic benches, we see gains average closer to 10% more often than not, and gaming is no different, with most of the games tested, excluding Overwatch, seeing gains at higher resolutions start to exceed that 10% bump. I'd argue this is the easiest unleashing video to date, since the card never had some of the phantom issues of the GCN card, such as overheating. However, I once again have to point out what a shame it is that NVIDIA locked down memory timings. More than raw speed, tightening memory timings can help keep your cores fed with data when they need it, since they spend less time waiting between data requests. With how easy the rest of the card was to tinker with, this felt like a major loss of potential performance, and I'm disappointed to see it locked away. So, is it worth it? For $200, absolutely. This thing smokes similarly priced cards when overclocked, like the Radeon 7, while sipping power. However, at new prices of $339, it's much less tempting. Stick with used for this one, folks. This has been Tech-Xample. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.